Ishmael and Ezekiel hoped nobody would find them, but then no one ever did. They were in the rafters of Ishmael's dad's barn, naked as the day they were born. Ezekiel would often pull Ishmael into doing chores that ensured that they would be alone and in private, and it always ended up with both of them naked and Ezekiel on top of Ishmael. But this time there they were, with their clothes on the ground and them in the trusses, and a mad bull that could smell the boys in the rafters. They'd been getting away with this for years, and it seemed like bad karma coming back that they'd finally get caught. Ishmael and Ezekiel were finally able to climb down once Ishmael's dad ran the bull off. As they stood there putting their clothes back on, Ezekiel tried to come up with a story that could excuse their nakedness and such, but Ishmael told his father the truth. The boys were immediately separated, and Ezekiel was forced away from the community because he was considered an adult who violated a child, and Ishmael was punished by his father for his part. Ezekiel was told never to come back to the community, and Ishmael spent the next 2 years wondering if he would ever see Ezekiel again. Ishmael's punishment was harsh, but he felt he deserved it in some way, so he accepted the discipline with grace. Eventually, it was time for Ishmael's rumspringa. He left the community and went to the nearest city, where he began searching for Ezekiel. He didn't know much about life in the city, so it took him a long time to get his bearings. When he didn't know where he could even start to look, he went to the local bar and began drinking. A cute guy came up and began to talk to Ishmael. "Hello there, I'm John. I couldn't help but notice you when you came in. You're the hottest guy I've seen in a long time." "Thanks, I'm Ishmael." John laughs. "Like the whaler from that really old book?" "Who?" "You know, what's the name of that book? It had Dick in the title." "I have no idea." Ishmael began to get annoyed. John was silent for a moment, looking at his phone, and then shouted, "Moby Dick!" "What's that now?" "The story, with a guy named Ishmael." "No, what's that thing you have that told you that? Can it tell you anything?" "Oh." John didn't know how to react to the idea that someone didn't know something so basic. "It's a cell phone. You use it to make calls and so much more." "Can it find people? Can it find a person and call him?" "Theoretically. Do you not know what a phone is?" "I was raised in an Amish community. Can that phone find my friend Ezekiel? He left the community 2 years ago, and I really would love to find him." "Sure, you can use my phone. So you were raised Amish? What was that like?" "I don't know how to answer that question because I didn't know any other way of living until very recently. Can you show me how to use this thing?" Ishmael spent the next hour and a half learning how to use a cell phone and talking about his upbringing in the Amish community. When the truth of why Ezekiel was banished from the community came out, John was shocked. He consoled Ishmael and told him that he didn't deserve any of what had happened to him. Ishmael didn't know how to react to the sympathy of another person on what he considered to be a normal upbringing, but he appreciated the sentiment. He left the bar to get himself a cell phone and began his search in earnest for Ezekiel. Ishmael spent the next 6 months scouring the internet for any sign of Ezekiel, but came up empty. He consulted John often, and eventually the two fell in love. Soon Ishmael began to forget Ezekiel because he found himself so happy with his new boyfriend. But nothing could completely erase the memories of Ezekiel and the good times they had as teenagers. One day a letter arrived at Ishmael's house saying that his mother was dying and that if he wanted to see her alive again, he should come back to the community as soon as possible. John begged Ishmael not to go, but he felt he had no choice. Ishmael packed some luggage and he headed out in his car. When he arrived, his father greeted him and took him to see his mother. She was frail, but she regained some strength when she saw her son. Ishmael's mother told his father to leave, and when they were alone, his mother began to weep with grief at how Ishmael had been treated in those 2 years. She told him that she was sorry for her part, and that despite his father's objections, she had saved all the letters that Ezekiel had sent him over the years. Ishmael got angry at his mother for not sharing the letter sooner. Ezekiel had gone into the city to wait for Ishmael, and there he met a farmer boy. He began dating the farmer and moved onto his farm outside the city. Later letters revealed that after Ishmael hadn't found him, he had gotten married to the farmer boy and was living happily a few miles from where Ishmael lived. Ishmael thought about all he'd been through to get here, and how he was bitter at his parents. He left the next morning and drove to Ezekiel's farm, but stopped at the end of the driveway and turned around. After all these years, could they even make it work? Could they drop everything they had built for themselves and start rebuilding what had been destroyed by their parents? Ishmael was too scared to know the answer, so he turned around and drove back to his house, and John, and the stability of what he knew. But he never stopped thinking about Ezekiel, and what could have been. Ishmael never really got over Ezekiel, and to this day, he pined for the rafters of his dad's barn and wished that that stupid bull hadn't been so nosy.